The Great American Kitchen. It's more than just a place to prepare and cook foods. Kitchens give us the opportunity to create both foods and memories. From a Thanksgiving Day feast complete with all the trimmings, to a super sandwich meal eaten while cheering on the home team, to muffins and coffee shared with a friend. Have you ever noticed that when people gather in a home, they often end up in the kitchen? While the kitchen represents a place of warmth and familiarity, it's also the place where most home accidents, illnesses, and injuries occur. Every year we read horrible accounts of children being severely burned by scalding water, of a person who sets himself afire because of a grease fire on the stove, or of a person who loses a finger trying to retrieve something from the disposal. And if you're like most people, you've probably bumped your head on an open kitchen cabinet door, cut yourself while preparing food, slipped on a loose rug or a wet kitchen floor, or cut yourself while trying to pick up a piece of broken glass. The purpose of this program is to show you how to prevent accidents from happening. The best way is to think safety and sanitation. Be your own expert in your kitchen. As any health and safety expert will tell you, preparation and precaution are the best ways to avoid the problem in the first place. There are 6 major areas of concern while working in the kitchen. We'll show you how to avoid them. They are burns and scalds, cuts and wounds, slips and falls, electrocution, food contamination, and caustic poisoning. The kitchen oven, range, and microwave are the centerpiece for the preparation of wonderful meals. It's also an area where we must be especially safety conscious. Here are some ways to prevent painful burns or scalds. Use pots and pans that are appropriate for the cooking task. Make sure that the size of the flame or the burner is the same size as the pot or pan. It's unsafe to allow flames to lap up over the sides of the pan. Reduce the flame if this happens. Otherwise, the pan and handles will heat, which could in turn burn you, as well as ruin your pan. Matching the size of the flame to the pan also saves energy. While cooking, always turn your pot and pan handles in toward the stove to a safety zone. When you leave handles outward, there's a greater chance that someone will bump into the handle, or that a small child may pull on the handle, spilling the hot contents and causing severe burns. Tin pans occasionally come in handy, but they aren't capable of holding much weight, so if you're using one, use caution when removing them from the oven. Pull out the oven rack slowly with an oven mitt, and maneuver a sturdy cookie sheet or tray underneath the hot pan. Then, lift the sheet and move to a safe, heat-resistant area. Microwaved food items should be heated in microwavable containers only. Containers not made for the microwave will overheat and could cause severe burns if accidentally touched, and the container may melt down. Never put metal in the microwave, including items that are decorated with metal, like this coffee cup. Metal in the microwave causes arcing and will hurt the heat elements. Be extremely careful when handling liquids or foods that have been heated in the microwave. Unlike a conventional oven, which gives off noticeable heat, the microwave oven remains fairly cool, so we don't sense the heat immediately. And because the microwave cooks food in just a few minutes, we tend to forget that the food inside will be hot, but it will be. That's why you should always use oven mitts or pads when handling any heated food or food container, whether from the microwave, oven, or stove. Don't give in to the temptation to just grab the item. And don't use paper towels, napkins, or kitchen towels to handle heated foods. They get hot fast. Do use dry, well-insulated pads and mitts. When your pads or mitts are old and worn, replace them. The flame from your burner, combined with grease splattering from a pan, are the #1 cause of kitchen fires. Obviously, you need to stop fires as soon as possible. Don't store flammable items like alcohol, vegetable oil, lard, matches, or lighters over or near the stove. And use common sense. Keep anything flammable away from an open flame. If a fire does start on the stove, here's what you should do. Turn the burner off. Drop a lid on the pan. Quickly sprinkle baking soda over the fire if it is still burning. Do not throw water on the fire, especially if it's an oil fire. Oil and water don't mix and will only cause more splattering. Use a fire extinguisher only as a last resort. The contents in a fire extinguisher may damage oven elements. And finally, if none of the above work, get out of the kitchen and call the fire department or emergency 911. When you're cooking foods, make sure no loose clothing or long hair is dangling over the stove, as they can easily catch fire. If you do ever catch on fire, here's what you should do. If your clothes catch on fire, stop, drop to the ground, and roll to smother the flames. If someone is there to help, they should throw a blanket on you to smother the flames. Call 911 or get to an emergency room as soon as you are out of immediate danger. Steam is superheated water, and it's a major factor in kitchen burns. Do the following to avoid steam burns. When food cooks in a pan, the moisture in the food creates steam, which rises. If you place a lid on a pan, the steam rises and collects inside the pan. When you remove the lid, make sure you lift the lid away from your face to avoid being burned by the quickly rising steam. The same goes for microwaving foods. When removing cellophane wrap from a container that has been in the microwave, peel the wrap away from your face. Steam can cause serious burns, so make sure you handle these items carefully. And as mentioned earlier, always use hot pads when handling any item from the stove or microwave. Even if the handles are heat resistant, it's better to be safe about possible hot items than sorry. Similarly, when you want to smell food that has been cooking, waft steam toward you instead of putting your head over the pan. It's also more sanitary to waft the steam towards you. To avoid scalds and burns while draining liquid or food from a pan, use a colander or strainer. Never use lids to drain water from your foods. The weight of the water and food makes it awkward to hold the pan, and you increase your chance of being burned from the water or steam. You also lose some of the food product. A boil-over occurs when foods with liquids are cooked at too high of a temperature. If this happens, don't panic. For boil-overs on the stove, turn off the burner, grab the pan handle with a pot holder, slowly slide it off the grill, and move it to another grill which is at room temperature. Simply turning off the burner isn't enough, since the grill retains heat for some time. For glass-top stoves, lift the pan by the handle with an oven mitt and set the pan on a nearby hot pad. You should know that a sugar boil-over will damage glass-top stoves and pit the surface. When lifting a pan of hot liquid, hold your arms out away from your body and over the counter. For oven boil-overs, pull the rack out slowly with an oven mitt until you can manipulate your arms around the hot cookware with ease. Maneuver a sturdy cookie sheet or tray underneath the hot pan and lift the pan from the oven rack by the sheet to a safe, heat-resistant area. Avoid setting heavy, large broiler pans on the oven door. It will weaken the hinges and one day might give way. If there's no room on the stovetop, prepare an area ahead of time with hot pads or trivets for your pan. For a microwave boil-over, open the door immediately and allow the food to sit until it has stopped boiling and the food has had a chance to cool. Taste carefully because the food may still be very hot. In most food preparations, you'll need to use a knife, but knives are dangerous if handled carelessly, so treat them with caution and respect. A good rule of thumb, and a good way to keep your thumb, is to use a knife appropriate to the size of the job. For example, to cut this green onion, use a small paring knife, not a meat cleaver. When cutting, turn your fingers in on top of the food and cut away from yourself. The only exception is when you're using a French knife, also known as a chef's knife, which requires a back-and-forth rocking motion. Wash knives separately and wash them right away so that you're not injured when reaching your hand into a sink full of dishes. Wash and dry knives away from their blades. If you wash a knife with the blade toward you, the blade could easily cut through the sponge and cut you. Put knives away after drying, in a safe place, out of the reach of children. It happens to all of us at one time or another. We drop or break a glass. Broken glass must be handled carefully. First, Put on gloves and sweep up the larger pieces from the floor. Never use your bare hands to pick up glass, and rinse the gloves when you're finished to remove any stray glass particles. The smaller pieces of glass can be wiped up with a wet paper towel. Wipe once with a paper towel, discard, then wipe with a new piece, and repeat until the glass is gone. Don't use reusable cloth towels for glass because the tiny particles will bury themselves into the cloth and remain there even after washing. If a glass breaks in a sink full of water, wear gloves and wrap a towel around your hand to pull the stopper up and drain the sink. When the sink is drained, carefully remove the glass pieces. Put all glass and paper towels in a sealable plastic bag before you put it in the garbage. When finished cleaning, take the garbage outside so that you and others won't get cut when smashing the garbage down. Opening a can be a little tricky, and the jagged edges on the lid may cause deep, infected cuts. Take the lid off immediately after opening the can. Don't leave it attached to the can. If the lid is disconnected, lift it out with a paper towel which has been folded over until it's the size of your hand. Then, with paper towel in hand, push down on one side of the can until you can grip the lid between your thumb and index finger. If the lid is still connected to the can, use a folded towel and twist the lid until it can be pulled off. Slipping on a banana peel may be funny in the comics, but not in real life. A slippery rug, a loose item on the floor, or a liquid spill all have the potential to make you slip, fall, and injure yourself. Pick up stray objects and clean liquid spills immediately from your floor and make sure the area is dry before walking on it. Use non-slip rugs on your kitchen floor. Don't try to get an item from an upper cabinet by climbing on your counters or a chair. Use a step ladder or step stool specifically made for the kitchen. Every time a kitchen door or drawer is opened, it should be shut immediately to avoid bumps, bruises, and puncture wounds. You know how painful it can be when you hit your head on an open cabinet door. For safety's sake, keep cabinet doors and drawers closed while not in use. In today's kitchen, you'll find a lot of electric appliances and gadgets to make food preparation easier and quicker. Since these appliances use electricity, special care should be taken when using them. Stay away from large appliances while in use. Don't let electric cords drape over counters. Someone passing by may accidentally catch the cord and get caught in the appliance or cause the appliance to fall. If you're using an appliance near the sink, keep the cord away from water. If possible, use electric appliances away from the sink area altogether. Never unplug an object by pulling on the cord. Grasp the plug to pull it out. Replace old worn-out or frayed cords. Frayed cords can short or spark, which could electrocute you or cause a fire. Don't overload circuits. This type of octopus outlet is dangerous both in terms of electrocution and as a fire hazard. Do not use them. When trying to dislodge food from a toaster, make sure the toaster is unplugged before you stick your utensil inside. All reliable manufacturers include an instruction book in the packaging. Read the booklet before operating an appliance for the first time. Pay special attention to the safety precautions. Know the location of your circuit or fuse box, so if an emergency arises, you'll know how to shut off the power. Some of the things you've seen so far are fairly obvious ways we can get hurt in the kitchen. There are also ways we can get hurt that are not so obvious. Food that is spoiled or contaminated can cause food poisoning. Mild cases of food poisoning will give you flu-like symptoms that last roughly 24 hours. Severe cases of food poisoning can cause death. You can avoid foodborne illness through good personal hygiene and common sense. Always start food preparation with clean hands, countertops, cooking utensils, and food. Purchase food from a reliable source and eat it before it's gone bad. With some foods, it's obvious when it's gone bad. With other foods, it's not so obvious. That's why you should look for the perishable date on the label. It often reads, sell by, use by, or best when used by. This is especially important with raw meat, poultry, and fish. If you purchase meat and don't intend to use it within a day or two, put it in your freezer until you need it. When thawing meat, Take it out a day ahead of time and let it unthaw in your refrigerator. Never set meat out on the counter to thaw. The warm air may cause spoilage. Some defrosting trays contain a metal that helps food defrost relatively quickly. These quick-thaw trays are best used for thinner cuts of meat. Thicker meats, such as a roast or a whole chicken, will still take some time to thaw out, and it's best, especially when handling poultry, to thaw these thicker foods in the refrigerator. The United States Department of Agriculture recommends this general rule, both with raw and cooked foods. When the temperature is below 90 degrees, foods should not be allowed to sit at room temperature for more than 2 hours. For temperatures above 90 degrees, no more than 1 hour. Stay away from gray-colored meat or foul-smelling meat or poultry. Fresh fish should have a slight, pleasant odor of the sea, and it should be firm to the touch. On fruits and vegetables, look for overripe signs like bruises, softness, smell, and mold. Keep foods at their proper temperatures. Keep hot foods hot and cold foods cold. Some meats contain bacteria that are naturally present in our environment. Since you can't see, smell, or taste them, you must learn to keep foods out of the danger zone. Storing foods at improper temperatures will enable the bacteria to multiply rapidly. Refrigerating foods at 40 degrees or below inhibits the growth of bacteria. Freezing foods will stop the growth of bacteria, but will not kill the bacteria already present. Only cooking foods at high temperatures will kill the bacteria. You're taking chances anytime you eat raw or partially cooked meats. Avoid preparing food, especially meat, if you have open sores, cuts, or wounds on your hands, or if you are sick. Don't prepare foods with an old Band-Aid on your hand either. While preparing foods, wash your hands frequently with a disinfectant soap. And wash your hands if you've touched your face or hair. Microscopic bacteria live there too. You can discourage bacterial growth through kitchen sanitation. Use hot, soapy water and a disinfectant where necessary. Wash countertops and cooking surfaces before and after preparing foods. This is especially important after preparing poultry. Use hot soapy water on all of the surfaces that came into contact with the raw poultry or poultry juices. Follow up with a weak solution of bleach and water to help kill the germs. You may wish to fill a sprayer bottle with this solution to have on hand. Allow the solution to sit for a few minutes, then rinse thoroughly. When using a cutting board, clean and sanitize it between different food items, especially if you're cutting meats. There's been much debate over whether to use a wooden or a plastic cutting board when cutting meats. Plastic and acrylic boards are favored slightly over the wooden boards, although all types are acceptable as long as you thoroughly clean and sanitize the board when finished. Make sure your boards have smooth surfaces with no chips or cracks. To date, there is not enough evidence to support the theory that wooden cutting boards repel bacteria better than plastic or acrylic boards. Start food preparation with clean utensils. When you're finished using the utensils, put them away somewhere, away from the food, until you've had a chance to wash them. Never use abrasive cleaners on knives or other metals. The abrasives can scratch the metal, and bacteria can collect in the microscopic scratches. Discourage insect bacteria by cleaning up crumbs and leftovers after preparing food. Empty trash frequently to avoid unwanted pests. When making a stir-fry or other dish that contains both meat and vegetables, prepare, store, and cook the meat and vegetables separately. Otherwise, cross-contamination can result. For the stir-fry, the veggies are cooked first, set aside, and then the chicken is cooked. Add them together to complete the recipe. It's tempting after enjoying a meal to sit around and relax, but if you have leftovers, you should refrigerate them as soon as possible. Don't let food sit out at room temperature any longer than they have to. This is especially important for meats and dishes containing meat or eggs, such as this potato salad, which is made with mayonnaise. You increase your risk for spoilage and contamination. Remember the USDA's 2-hour rule. By using common sense, your other senses, and by keeping you and your kitchen clean, you can help prevent foodborne illnesses. While a sanitary kitchen is a good thing, the cleaners we sometimes use can be dangerous to ourselves, our children, and our pets. Baking soda, vinegar, and ammonia can usually clean most household dirt, and it's less harmful to us and to the environment. Get rid of old cleaners if they're no longer used. Call your local government to find out if there's a drop-off site or a collection day for hazardous wastes. Store household cleaners, poisons, and pesticides in a safe place. Keep child-proof locks on low cabinets containing these items for young children. If you have older children, make sure these items are put out of their reach. It's good practice to wear rubber gloves when using harsh cleaners to prevent skin damage. Some cleaners, such as oven sprays, can be harmful if inhaled. Read the directions and precautions on all cleaners, pesticides, and poisons before using them. Don't set pesticides or poisons down until the project is completely done if pets or children are nearby. Always wash hands after using household cleaners, pesticides, and poisons. Be aware if you have toddlers in the house. Don't forget about air fresheners plugged into outlets, mothballs, or mouse and ant bait. Toddlers will put anything into their mouths. Keep everything covered and in cabinets when having an exterminator spray. Wash fresh food items, fruits, vegetables, and meats before preparing them to remove any pesticide, dirt, or bacteria. Although we're often put to work while we're in it, the kitchen is a place where lots of terrific memories come from, whether it's to catch up on the day's events, test our creativity, or to create a feast for family and friends. But the kitchen also holds the potential for injuries and illnesses, both seen and unseen, from burns and scalds, cuts and wounds, slips and falls, electrocution, food contamination, and poisoning. With good personal hygiene, a knowledge of safety and sanitation, and a dash of common sense, we can continue to have healthy, safe, and fun times in the kitchen.